from work and read the dictionary and just look for things to rhyme with things and just sit up there and write rhymes for 3 or 4 hours. You know, that's a guy who's discovering this new love for the language.
When I was coming up through the underground, it was like a do or die type situation. Like, I gotta win this battle. I went to the Rap Olympics, and when I lost the Rap Olympics, I was ready to hurt something. I was ready to kill somebody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was a prize, a $500 prize, you know, in a Rolex or whatever that they were giving for the first prize, and I was evicted from my house back home, and I needed that money. You know what I'm saying? Now it's kind of like I do it for the fun.
After dropping out of high school and with a newly born daughter, Hayley, to support, the future superstar became a short-order chef at Gilbert's Lodge Pizzeria. He also began to concentrate on his rap career, and before long he signed with local producers Mark and Jeff Bass.
Well, the Bass brothers they're pretty essential in letting him develop. They heard him on this little local show where you could get on and sort of throw down, you know, and he was there with a bunch of people, and I think he was only like 16 or something. And they heard him and found him and basically gave him this kind of great, basically they gave him a practice room. You know, if Eminem were a rock band, that would be his practice room. And they let him come down and experiment and worked with him and did tracks with him and actually got to watch him slowly change his style, go through all different kinds of styles until he found himself.
After several minor demos, Eminem recorded his first studio album, the independently released Infinite.
All he could think about was doing radio. Back then, everybody was trying to get on the radio. Detroit wasn't given much love. And he wanted to do some radio stuff, so we laid Infinite together. It was me, Denai Porter, Mark and Jeff had the studio, and everybody would help everybody, you know, hey, use this, use that, hook that up, sample it like that, put that in there. Basically, that's why he did Infinite. It's so laid back, because he was trying to get on the radio. As far as the production, was done by a ton of people. I mean, everybody thought, hey, everybody put work into the album. So it's kind of one of those things that everybody had their 2 cents in it, but no one got really credit for it.
That was the era when I recorded Infinite, that, you know, backpacking, ciphering, underground hip-hop was in, and it was just like, you know, you metaphysical, alphabetical, numerical, lyrical, metaphorical, historical, where it was just rhyming big words. And I listened to the tape, kind of listening like, I was rhyming some big words, and I think it was obvious that I could rhyme, but I wasn't really saying anything. You know what I mean?
Infinite was, you know, Eminem's first stab at putting his life and his thoughts and everything to, you know, on record. And he did. And it really is a story about a struggling guy. You know, there's some great songs on there. There's like some very honest lyrics. The kind of lyrics that weren't going to be heard from him in such sort of glaring honesty for many years afterwards. You know, it's an independently released record. It doesn't sound incredibly professional, but it does sound good. And I think the most significant thing about it is that he was really honest, he bared his soul, and he was completely ridiculed for it. You know, which sucked at the time. It was really tough for him, but you know, it was kind of some bad medicine, because after that it got him angry enough to change his persona and like take it a different way. You know, it's definitely not the best. He was definitely not at his best, but you can see that the kid can rhyme.
Infinite was not well received on the Detroit hip-hop scene. With a young family to support and the recent death of his uncle Ronnie, the young rapper became increasingly despondent about his burgeoning career.
I reached a point when my daughter was born where I didn't give a fuck anymore. I didn't care. I just was like, I was fed up with so much shit. I knew I had a baby on the way that before she was born, and once she was born, I couldn't afford to buy her diapers. I couldn't afford to do anything. I lost my job. I was working different jobs, temporary service, all kinds of jobs just to try to make ends meet. Didn't have anything, got evicted from the house I was staying at and really reached a point where I just hit rock bottom, so I stopped giving a fuck. And it seemed like as soon as I stopped giving a fuck, other people started giving a fuck.
He was thinking of giving it up because no one was taking him seriously. He'd gotten it together to put out Infinite, and he loved that record. It was really who he was, and there's a lot of honesty on that record. But people were just not wanting to hear this white kid, especially because his style there sounded more black than white. So when he finally did get fed up, and Proof kind of pushed him into it, convincing him that battling was a way that he could get everyone's respect. And eventually he was pissed off enough that he just went for it.
We used to battle all the time. Everybody in the house would battle. He'd be like, Bob, you're a slob, get a job. Stuff like that. Go back and forth on each other, and constantly rip on each other, Kind of like a love-hate relationship, but friends having fun with each other, and which a lot of people, get offended. Hey, don't be talking about me like that, The freestyling was the part that made him hot, because that was like recognition at its most. If you could beat certain people, you were the shit back then. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you could go, and that you hear the guy, and he was like, wow, that guy's pretty good. And you go against him. And you have to tear him up. You're going back and forth. He's taking stuff that you're saying and flipping it around on you, and he's taking stuff that you're saying and flipping it around on you.
Battling is crucial to understanding Eminem. This is a guy who thrives on hardship. He thrives on people telling him he can't do things. He just thrives on taking somebody down who took him down first, especially. That seems to just light the guy's fuse, The best thing you can do if you feel like Eminem's in a slump is make fun of him. And the battling, was how he proved on the local Detroit scene that he was a good rapper.
That's where he really got his big, fame, was, you heard this little white boy, Eminem? He's hot. So the street buzz actually was what made his buzz. When he did Infinite, everybody was like, it's all right. But when they heard him battle, that's where they were impressed at.
After his success as a battle MC, Eminem began work on his next independent release.
As we were promoting Infinite, he continued writing, and he'd started, writing some new tracks, and he ran a few by me, and at this one point he had called me and said, I really think I'm going to go just balls out and really kind of just be as crazy as possible, because that's what these kids want.
Somewhere he was inspired, and I don't know how. I don't know who put this seed in his head, or if it just came to him, but he put an edge in his music. He went from being Marshall Mathers, from being sort of, sweet Eminem, to being Slim Shady, this guy who had very little regard for others, was a drug dealer, a rapist, a murderer, a gangster. And there's a story that one of his old friends from the basement days, a guy named Vitamin C, tells about talking to a mutual friend of theirs where Eminem told him, look, I got to do something different. I got to do something different because I don't want to deliver pizzas my whole life.